What would you say is the main difference between analog and digital synths? Sure, analog has the sound, but just compare many synth engines at once, instant preset recall, and countless options to modulate, to just a few of those, and a preset menu, if you're lucky. Turns out that there is something that can break the rules. It comes with price, but hey, it's totally safe to live with one kidney. Don't treat it as a financial advice, please. I'm talking about this chunky guy right here. PolyBrute 12 by Arturia. There are many great, in-depth and long reviews, so instead I wanted to show you some of its most unique features, with the first one being the plugin.
This is a crucifixion.
So I have this session here made with sounds only from PolyBrute, and let's just say I don't really like the sound of those key bells. I can then go straight into the corresponding track I made, open the PolyBrute Connect plugin, click Connect or Link to PolyBrute, and voila! Here is the sound with every tweak I made. And it even recorded the automations with, well, quite a few things you can touch, press and slide here. Once I try to change something here, it automatically mirrors everything I do on a synth, and vice versa. And let me tell you something, this plugin is surprisingly fast. I mean, it takes some time to load it and connect to PolyBrute, but once you've set, then you can go to the browser, search for something like, for example, the keys, and then switch presets here and there. And the cherry on top is that you can use as many instances as you want or need, and then recall every preset in every single project. The basic use of Morph knob is to quickly tweak many parameters at once, which is cool, but what's even cooler, you can use it as a sound generator. Let me explain. So that's my A sound, and once I click Morph, there are a couple of utility options and pick B. This basically allows me to load any preset from my library. So let's pick something at random here. What a surprise, I guess we went with another bass. And now let's just try morph between those two. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but browsing through presets like that is, way to say at least, not ideal. That's why it is better to do something on your own. Here I have quite of a simple synth brass pad, and now once I choose copy A to B, which is the number 5, I now have the same sound on either side. And now let's work on a B pad and maybe switch some modulations here and there. So we can increase the LFO amount. Maybe then increase the rate of LFO too. Then let's go to one of those filters, since we don't actually need to change modulations here. We can also change some things inside the synth engine itself. Then I can also work on a filter envelope for the B part. And let's try to morph. Quite of a simple idea, but to be honest, I really like it. Now, although you have some hints on screen where the B and A values are, it's much easier to get an idea with a plugin. Since you know, colors, moving knobs and other visual feedback for HDAD computer screen addicts we all became. Okay, but what about this cutting border-like piece of fancy wood here? That's another way to modulate and morph between different parameters, but unlike the one knob from before, you can program it to do completely different things and many things at once. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a coffee. Believe me, I tried. Here in this preset, I assigned both the LFO rate, LFO amount, and a couple of parameters from Steiner filter and Metalizer to do this. And it's only one function, which is pressing, very satisfying thing if you ask me. And you know what? We can actually do something here. So let's copy A to B again. Choose B, then maybe increase the brute factor. You need to be very careful with the brute factor, although it can do magic things. So that's our basic variant. And now, once we switch, nothing really happens, but once we switch and push, okay, we are slowly getting into more of a modern sound, and it turns out it's pretty easy to turn this analog synth into a digital one. That's the initialize preset with 2 oscillators active in mono. First, we need to remove the analog drift by turning the sync on. Then you can add a bit of FM and wave shaping with metalizer. Although that doesn't do anything since I'm in Soul Wave, but we can go to Settings, Synth Voice, then VCO and turn metalizer into all waves. Then let's send everything to both filters and crank the feedback loop with brute factor. Already sounds quite digital if you ask me, and obviously nothing holds us back from applying a couple of modulations. So the Steiner cutoff sounds promising. So the cutoff is gonna be our 4 row, and assign it to mod envelope, increase the amount. Maybe a better way would be to assign it to LFO. Accidental solo, and we actually created a cool lead if you ask me. Now in case you forgot it's an analog, then just wait for this to happen. Yeah. Warm-up before playing is crucial, and in fact it's actually way better to just turn on the synth way before you know you have your day off and want to do some sounds and play with it. The keyboard by itself, it's also a masterpiece, but please just let me practice my piano skills even more, so there will be less shame for me to just play some notes here. But a couple of things you need to know right now is that the keyboard is full touch, so basically works like a MPE controller, and this basically allows you to program some things like, for example, no need to use pitch wheel while playing some solos. And if you think about it, I have reverb here, and I can also assign it to aftertouch, then go to aftertouch, then increase the amount, and now we should have a reverb throw without adding any effects in post. A couple of cons were floating around here and there, so just to summarize them. Using a synth like this without dedicated software controller is a way much steeper learning curve than you think. I mean, yeah, you can access the same parameters, but a simple thing like lowering the octave of one oscillator requires a bit more menu diving than just a one-click inside software. Surprisingly though, when it comes down to mod matrix, I prefer using the synth itself rather than this. Which is also the case with my Mini Freak, so maybe it's just me. And you know what? All of those cool options can really dethrone some plugins if you add the analog sound into equation. But if you still don't get the reason why it is cool to use hardware, then you need to check this video where I go more in depth about that, but in a production standpoint.